The Tragedy of Macbeth is the brand new film that released in theaters in late 2021 and on Apple TV Plus January 14th, 2021. The film is directed by Joel Cohen and written by Joel Cohen, one of the two Cohen brothers, and stars Denzel Washington, Frances McDormand, Brendan Gleeson, Corey Hawkins, and Harry Melling. It tells us about a Scottish lord who becomes convicted by a trio of witches that he will become the next king of Scotland, and his ambitious wife supports him in his plans of seizing power. The film's an hour 45 and rated R. Welcome back to a brand new movie review here on Max Talks Movies. We're talking The Tragedy of Macbeth, a very Oscar buzz film. We're going to break it down here, non-spoiler, here on Max Talk Movies. So if you're new to the channel, please subscribe, ring the bell. That's how you support this channel the best way possible. I do movie reviews, TV show reviews, movie rankings, and box office breakdowns. I've had a lot of movie reviews as of late. Screen, Hotel Transylvania 4, The 355. So a lot of reviews have come down in 2022. As well as please comment down below your thoughts on The Tragedy of Macbeth. Tell me if you saw this in theaters or you watched it like me on Apple TV Plus. And also please like the video, the thumbs up button. Let's talk The Tragedy of Macbeth. So I was definitely not excited for this film. I was hearing all the buzz. Obviously, Denzel Washington seems pretty secure at the moment to get an Oscar nomination for this performance. The cast is great, of course, when you have Denzel Washington and Frances McDormand, who could be considered the two best actors of their generation. On screen, of course, one of the Coen brothers directing it. On paper, it's good. I'm just not a Shakespeare person whatsoever. This is based off the Shakespeare play. I'm not a big Shakespeare person in movies. I can read it, but for movies, it can be quite confusing. So I was not very excited for this film, but I'm going to say this up front. If you love this film, I get it. And if you don't like this film, I also get it, because this is very much for a specific audience if you're going to love this movie. And as you can tell, based on my expectations, I did not love this movie. Let's talk about my positives, my negatives, then I'll give you my score. So for me, for The Tragedy of Macbeth, it's all on the best parts of this film are two aspects. The first is the acting. The two lead performances are Oscar-worthy performances. Denzel Washington is fantastic playing Lord Macbeth, who is the person who's trying to gain control of Scotland. It's a really great performance. He's a lot of different monologues, and this is some of the best Denzel's been in years. It's a really good performance that balances both somewhat being a good person in the beginning, then kind of doing whatever it's necessary to take the crown in Scotland. He's really good in this movie. There's a couple monologues, including one in a hallway with McDormand that was really fantastic. Also, again, both these actors, Denzel and Frances, both have fantastic chemistry with each other. They really do come off as husband and wife, and the way that Lady Macbeth pushes him in his ways also really affects the way he rules. But Denzel overall deserves this Oscar buzz. I don't think he's nearly as good as the top three contenders, Garfield, Cumberbatch, or Smith, but I still think he should be nominated. It's a really good performance that this movie definitely needed to get through. It's also a very entertaining like performance, especially towards the last 30 minutes. Frances McDormand is also really good. She's really not being talked about at all when people talk about this movie, but she is excellent. It's so great to see her working a lot more than she usually did. Obviously, earlier in 2021, I watched The French Dispatch. Really good in that movie, obviously coming off an Oscar win for Nomadland last year, and then 3 Billboards a couple years ago. So she's been really much on a hot streak, and this is another really good performance from her, really balancing a wife who has also just a lot of responsibilities. While he is the king, she also has a lot of responsibilities of keeping a particular secret and pushing her husband in the right direction. So the two of them together, they're fantastic. Other performances that are noteworthy, Corey Hawkins, who was one of my favorite performances in The Heights last year, was excellent. Again, he plays Macduff, who has a personal tie into why he wants to go after the throne, or not the throne, after Denzel. Really good stuff. And his fight scene with Denzel towards the third act was fantastic. Harry Melling was fine, a very minor role. Stephen Root was in a minor role, as well as Brendan Gleeson was also solid in his minor role. But it really is about these two performances, Denzel Washington, Frances McDormand. The other big positive with the movie is that the production design, the look of the movie is distinct and beautiful. It is a beautiful film, black and white film with really amazing sets of both the castle, both the wherever they are. It's a beautiful film to look at. Not just because it's in black and white, but the actual production design itself and the shot choices from both Cohen as the director and the cinematographer both did a really good job. I want to give the cinematographer credit, Bruno Del Bono. Really good stuff from both the cinematography point of view and a direction point of view. So those are the big keys for me. Production design is fantastic. The cinematography is fantastic. The direction is extremely well made. And the two lead performances are fantastic. But I'm going to go to my negatives. This just couldn't be of Shakespeare. When I watched the movie, I said, I know a lot of people love this movie, and I am not totally against that. If you love this movie, you are totally right. This movie just is not made for me whatsoever. Because of the type of dialogue it is and how fast some of the characters are saying the words, it is sometimes confusing, at least for me, it was what was going on at certain points in the film, because there's so much deep talking points, and sometimes it's just confusing what is happening. While it's a basic plot, it's very complex in nature, and some people's motives kind of feel hit or miss to me. As an overall, it's just a confused movie. It's a movie that I didn't feel any emotion for while watching it. I just felt nothing while watching the movie. It's well made, well acted, as I said earlier, but the movie just is not made for me. And a lot of people who love Shakespeare, they're going to love this movie, because not just is the writing from Shakespeare fantastic, but of course, when you're getting these two iconic actors playing these roles, it does also helps. But for me, I can't get past how the script for me can be quite confusing, a little too fast paced. It felt very much exclusively for Shakespeare fans. This was clearly not made for the mainstream, which I think limited my enjoyment of it, because it just feels very inside baseball for Shakespeare. I basically sucked into it right away with the first scene with that type of dialogue. So I think it could have been a bit more mainstream for someone like me to enjoy it, but I totally get it. If you guys love it, hate it, think it's okay, because that's what this type of film is, exclusively for a certain amount of people. And that's just what it is. So overall, I don't really have any strong thoughts on the negatives. It's just a confusing film that I wish I felt more emotion for, because the last 25 minutes were great. The first hour of this movie, in my opinion, is extremely boring. But once stuff starts to really happen and develop, I think that's when the last 45 minutes are actually quite good. But for me, the first hour was quite a snooze fest yet. So overall, I'm going to give The Tragedy of Macbeth a 3 out of 5 stars. It's a 56% for me on Apple TV Plus. So overall, I thought it was okay. I just wanted a lot more out of it from an emotional point of view. So that's my thoughts on The Tragedy of Macbeth. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Subscribe, ring the bell. More reviews coming, including my box office breakdown show and Euphoria Season 2 spoiler review will be coming tomorrow. I'll see you guys then.